GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered. And that's MVS and Justin Watson with some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues. If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up. Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow, comma, semicolon, period, next sentence, to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man JRich.
Is that yes! Let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
and Jay
in the morning.
My God.
How good is
Dude.
he? How good is he? Get it? GMGP. It is Wednesday, October 30th, Halloween night tomorrow. I want to know what y'all gonna be for Halloween with y'all grown asses. Finna go out and trick or treat with the kiddos. It is Wake Up with Ray and Jay, and we appreciate each and every eye, each and every ear in the damn building. We got a lot to talk about today. Trades, injuries, guns, Dodgers, statutes. There's a lot of things that we're going to discuss in the show. But, man, I'm looking at chat, and I'm feeling the love, man. I'm feeling the love. What's popping with you, Jeff? I see you with the Buffalo Bills emoji icon for your icon. What's up, Garrison, Jordan Baker, Florosaurus, Jason in the building, Jimbo. All right, chill out, man. Ray DQ is hilarious. Y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop. Y'all better not. Don't do that shit this early. Ray GQ, not DQ. He talking about Dairy Queen and Anthony Richardson. What's popping with you, Matt Jones, Patrick, Long Beach native? Y'all are wild. We're talking Dodgers in the chat. Yeah, we're going to talk a little Dodgers, a little Yankees, little football, a little theory, wherever y'all want to go today, baby. And we're repping for D-Wade, man. They did my dog D-Wade dirty. They did him dirty, Jay. I don't know if you saw. Jay, did you see it? Did you see the D-Wade statue? Did you see it, JRich?
How could I not see it, Ray?
What do you think
it
about
was
that,
everywhere. I've seen it memed like 10,000 times already. I just, like, the funniest part about the D-Wade statue thing is there is the post of him seeing it long before it was ever made a statue. And it's like, did you really approve this? Like, okay, maybe you didn't want to be disrespectful to the artist, and the artist came out and he defended his work. But, like, everyone knows that doesn't look like D-Wade. It's not even close at all.
Let's make sure we're not just there.
So it's just, oh my God.
Yeah,
that is terrifying.
Did you see his son look back at him? Like, they both looked at each other, and I did my dog D-Wade dirty, man. But we had to rep. We had to rep for D-Wade and Marquette on the show this morning, man. They did my dog D-Wade dirty. But yeah, Jay, it's Wednesday, hump day. We got a lot to talk about. NFL news. You know, we talk about how many times there's no activity in the NFL. There's no activity, no trades, no activity. We got some, baby. We got some activity. We got some news. We got some things to talk about. But we got to shout out the creators over here at DD. Scott Connor dropped something on the channel, making Winston bets. Jameis Winston hit the starting quarterback seat last Sunday, and it looked, I mean, you would have thought the Browns drafted a first number 1 overall pick back there, JRich, based on how the offense had looked under Deshaun Watson's leadership. It was much better under Winston. Now, he did some Winston things, but ultimately, shit, man, he had all the pass catchers thriving. Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, David
they're
Njoku.
all back to live.
Against the Ravens defense, of course, but Jameis Winston making some bets there, as well as the Dynasty Theory crew, Mitch, John, and Dan. Midseason buys and sells. Oh, Swift right there, DeAndre. Bell cow Swift. Not bell cow Swift this year. People were writing him off for dead the first week or two, and all he does now is get 20 damn opportunities per game. So make sure you check out both of these pieces of content on the channel or on the DD Radio podcast feed. JRich, the Yankees woke up last night, man. Your Yankees woke up.
Who are you cheering
beat
for?
My Dodgers,
There's
man.
been
I'm a Dodgers. I've been a Dodgers fan my whole life, man. Talk about the
Oh
Yankees.
my God.
11-4.
What?
They found the bats, baby. Talk about it, Jay. The chat is all MLB right now.
This is ridiculous. So you're telling me that on Friday, we didn't talk about the World Series, even though it was starting. I barely talked about it. Monday comes around. The Dodgers are up 2-0 going into game 3. We don't talk about it. The Yankees finally get off their ass in the do or die game to win. And now all of a sudden we're talking about the Yankees. Who are you rooting for in this scenario?
I'm rooting for the Dodgers. I want a series. I want more baseball. My boys and I are enjoying watching this thing together. I want my Dodgers to win it at home. Not in New York. Win this thing back in LA.
You do not want, no. Ray, you are a sports fan. You've watched plenty of sports. The last thing you want is the Dodgers to have to go home on what I believe will be Wednesday and play 2 more games potentially against the Yankees. They need to win the game tonight. It's going to be difficult. They have to go against Gerrit Cole. And while they do have Jack Flaherty, in my opinion, Gerrit Cole is a better pitcher. But the Dodgers do have Freddie Freeman, and the offense needs to show up in this game. They didn't show up last game. The pitchers need to be better. But this is a big game for the Yankees. But luckily, they didn't waste Cole yesterday, and they have him tonight. So I do think they have a very good shot, especially with the offense waking up in this contest. But Freddie Freeman's still the MVP, and I think will ultimately win MVP of this series. He's been the best player by a mile, and he's also Canadian. So I love myself some Freddie Freeman.
There you go. Freddie Freeman, beast. We're going to get it done tonight in LA. We're going to get it done tonight in LA, Jay. But there was some big NFL news and trades. And I think bigger than the players that were traded to the teams is the fallout and the impact to the rest of the players. So let's just get into it. Diontae Johnson was moved, JRich. Diontae Johnson traded from the Carolina Panthers to the Baltimore Ravens. We have been wanting the Ravens to trade for another wide receiver. It feels like for some time now. I know there was a lot of talk in the offseason. They need to go get DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe they trade for Devontae Adams. They end up trading for Diontae Johnson, who was on a 1-year deal in Carolina, and I believe the compensation was like a 5th or 6th round pick. Awful deal for Carolina. Minimum. Just feels like they got absolutely nothing for Diontae Johnson. But the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson now have another viable wide receiving option on the outside to space things out for this offense, to help Lamar Jackson out, to help the rushing attack out. Talk about just Diontae Johnson's fit with Lamar Jackson. How are we feeling about it?
I think it's a great fit. One of the things that people do not give Diontae Johnson enough credit for is he's actually a great catcher of the football. And so when you look this past week, what happened, you got players running wide open, dropping passes, and specifically we're looking at Rashad Bateman. In this instance, Zay Flowers, of course, is going to get open and is very short-handed. But I think having the opportunity to have those two players, Diontae Johnson and Zay Flowers, working in tandem poses a lot of issues for opposing defenses. You can still have Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar on the outside, sparingly stretching the field, but having those two players operating underneath, knowing that Derrick Henry is still a threat in the backfield, poses a lot more issues than just simply having Rashad Bateman maybe going to be involved, maybe not, maybe getting open, maybe not, maybe catching the passes, maybe not. So it's just having a player who's more reliable on this offense. In my opinion, though, Ray, it's more of a long-term play for the Ravens in terms of this season. It's not like I think he's going to be a great fantasy asset moving forward, and I wouldn't even project him to be the top target out the gate because Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson have a ton of chemistry and a ton of trust that's built in from his rookie season all the way until now. I think Diontae will have to earn that a little bit, but the other big factor here, Ray, 2 games still to be played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's when maybe we see Diontae get a little bit more involved. But overall, I think it's a great fit for the offense, great for Lamar Jackson, but outside of Zay Flowers, it probably nukes just about every other pass catcher, and the question for me to you is how do you think it impacts Zay Flowers? I think that's the number one question everyone has on their minds right now.
Yeah, I think your take on Diontae Johnson's fit in Baltimore is spot on. So let's just talk about Diontae right now. Right now in the season, 30 receptions, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, and we know he hadn't played the last 2 weeks. Carolina has not played him in 2 games, so the numbers would be better. I think it's a great move for the Baltimore Ravens NFL football team. I think it's a fantastic move. You get another space creator. You add another element to that offense that defenses have to pay attention to, and you potentially lighten that stack box, which Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are constantly running into. I think it's a great NFL fit. And to your point, I do not believe that Diontae Johnson rolls in there this week, next week, hell, maybe even against the Pittsburgh Steelers and assumes this wide receiver one type role in the offense. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think we have seen multiple instances of NFL pass catchers changing teams, and then we getting overly excited about what they're going to do right off the rip. And that shit don't work out like that. It takes some time for them to get acclimated in that offense. And this is still a low pass volume offense. This isn't the type of offense that wants to throw the ball 40 times a game, 45 times a game, like Tampa Bay is going to let Baker Mayfield do, like the Seattle Seahawks are going to let Geno Smith do. This could be an efficient offense, but I do not believe that there is enough passing work available in Baltimore to support both of those tight ends that we were kind of playing every week. You were playing Andrews, and if you were in a pinch, you were flexing Isaiah Likely. You look at just the usage in Baltimore right now, Jay, and we're just going to show a visual because the tool already updates and it puts Diontae Johnson on the Baltimore Ravens. So we're going to pull up the usage and just look at how things look right now in Baltimore. And this is what it looks like. It's very much clustered. So here's Diontae Johnson, 6.52, 12 fantasy points per game. Right underneath that, Bateman, 6.13. Flowers, 5.97. This is the Trinity tool, tracks usage, combines all that, yards per route run, target share, first downs, all of that into one simple score. ddfantasyfootball.com to get access to this tool. And there's a code and a link in the description if you want to try it out for a month at half off. But this is what you're looking at, Jay. And then you even look right here. It's Likely and it's Andrews back to back, like just very tight. So in my opinion, you look at this and you say there's three players who have been used kind of the same way, and not one of them are being used at an elite clip, right? Not one of them are being used at this level where you're looking at a week in, week out wide receiver one. I think it pulls from a little bit of everybody. Ultimately, I think everybody gets dinged at the end of the day. But that doesn't mean that there are going to be weeks where Zay Flowers and or Diontae Johnson or hell, even Rashad Bateman have one of those spike weeks. But I think from a consistency standpoint, it was already tough figuring out when to start Zay Flowers, or if you had to play Bateman for some reason you didn't know. You're just like,
someone told you to start him.
It was a plug and pray. You plug and pray. You plug him in and you pray. I think you might get a little more of this in Baltimore, while this still will be very good for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think you look at all these assets, and even Zay Flowers start the season, like I was almost viewing him as a bit of a touchdown-dependent asset because the volume just wasn't quite there, right? You need a player like Zay Flowers to see, 7, maybe not 7, let's say 5 to 7 receptions a game, at which point maybe he can get you 50 to 80 yards, depending on how he does after the catch, because we know that he's not doing a whole lot down the field, and especially stretching the field. And so when you look at a player like Diontae and Zay kind of working together, it's like, okay, now that floor is looking like it's 4 receptions, maybe even 3 receptions, depending on how they spread the ball around. And then, of course, if they're in a negative game script for the passing game, where Derrick Henry is absolutely feasting, 25 carries, 150 on the ground, Lamar's running the ball like we saw happen against the Dallas Cowboys when they dominated the Cowboys. So that's where it's the NFL fit versus the fantasy fit. The fantasy fit is going to be difficult. I still think I'd start Zay Flowers as like a flex option, especially for the first few weeks. Yes. See how he plays. It's great for Lamar, though. And then the other side of it that I still think people aren't giving enough credence to is like, maybe Lamar is this guy who is going to be throwing for like 3 touchdowns in a game.
Talk about
it. May be.
Talk about that side of it, because nobody's, even me included, I'm just like, it's not a high volume pass offense, but maybe they needed another option to open it up and spread it out. Talk about that angle, because nobody is saying maybe he will throw more.
Yeah, and that's where I think it comes down to both sides of it. Is one, Lamar this season has thrown for a lot of touchdowns and has been playing pretty well as a quarterback, especially in the red zone. And I think that's a side where you could see some value depending on who they're playing. In those more difficult matchups where they need to throw the ball a little bit more, you can still see Derrick Henry see 20 carries, but in the red zone, they're stacking the box. Okay, cool. We still got Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Diontae Johnson, who can all win one-on-one matchups on the outside should we choose to throw the ball. And so maybe there is opportunities where Lamar decides, okay, we're going to check out of this run play and throw the ball in our one-on-one matchup to Zay, to Diontae, for 2 guys out there who can both win and are both problems on the outside, and Lamar can deliver a strike to them in the end zone. So while it is going to be a lower volume type of offense, maybe we see similar irregularities like we saw from Aaron Rodgers at times, where in the red zone, they choose to throw the ball instead of always run the ball. I think it makes their team much less predictable in the red zone and could provide a spark offensively, having all three of those playmakers on the outside. And of course, we didn't even mention Mark Andrews, who is also great in the red zone as well. So I think having all those red zone options makes throwing the ball in the red zone a little bit easier for them, especially when Zay Flowers is your number one receiver. And while he's a red zone threat, he's not a red zone threat to go up and get it. I think even Diontae Johnson provides a bit of a spark in that aspect of football as well.
Rank them, your opinion, rest of season, prioritize the Baltimore pass catchers, and just give me a general range. Like, these are wide receiver 2s. I believe he'll be a wide receiver 1 overall, but how do you think this shakes out for Baltimore rest of season?
Rest of season, I would probably say Zay and Diontae would be low-end wide receiver 3s, and Bateman is probably a wide receiver 4 or 5. Again, the volume may be there. It's tough to predict rest of season because, okay, Zay may start out hot and continue to be good, but he may see some work to Diontae later in the year once Diontae's more acclimated to the offense. We're already seeing reports of DeAndre Hopkins going to be more involved this week. Amari Cooper excited to get more involved in the Bills offense. It takes time, right? And so from a average consensus, I think they'll both kind of fall in that low-end wide receiver 3 for the rest of the season. Maybe Diontae starts a little slow and ends a little bit stronger. If I was projecting for the end of the season, I would say Diontae Johnson would be the number one option down the stretch.
Really?
I think for fantasy, yes, only because I view him as having more touchdown upside than Zay. Now, the only counter argument to that is that he's not going to have plays designed for him, or I wouldn't expect it like they have for Zay Flowers. They do have a lot of plays designed for Zay Flowers and his skill set, whether it's screens, whether it's jet sweeps, whether it's smaller things to get him the ball. Diontae's not going to have that because it's going to be difficult to build during the season, but I still think I'd project Diontae to be the number one target late in the season once that chemistry's been developed. The problem is, Ray, is that this is a team that's going to be going to Pittsburgh, going to Cincinnati, going to Cleveland late in the year. They're not going to be throwing the ball a ton anyways. So that's why I think projecting that beyond the touchdown side of things, and like you're talking about with the high-end volume and the high-end production, it's probably not going to come for this Baltimore team unless, for some reason, Lamar needs to throw the ball 30, 40 times in a game.
All right, rank these traded wide receivers rest of the season then. Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Diontae Johnson. How would you rank them for fantasy rest of season? I'm going to say it again. Devontae Adams in New York, Diontae in Baltimore, you got Amari Cooper in Buffalo, and who was the last player? Was that DeAndre Hopkins in Kansas City? All AFC, number one for all AFC as well, which is
the AFC is horrible.
Maybe Cooper Kupp gets moved, but how would you prioritize those 4 recently acquired wide receivers rest of the season?
Yeah, the battle for the bottom is actually going to be pretty tough for me, but number 1 is going to be Amari Cooper. Number 2 would be Diontae Johnson. Then choosing between DeAndre Hopkins, who I love DeAndre Hopkins, but I just don't know if it's going to be... I just don't think it's going to be crazy. Like, he's going to be involved, sure, but is he going to be like this big piece, bigger than Diontae? Maybe, but like every week, Ray, Mahomes is he just doesn't look good. He's not throwing a ton of touchdowns. Like, you look at the way Lamar Jackson is playing, even in this low volume offense versus Mahomes, I just think there's a lot more fantasy points to be had in the Ravens offense right now than the Chiefs offense. I would still take Adams last, because the Jets, they're just not a good team. And Adams isn't even the number 1 target. It's clearly Garrett Wilson.
Long before the trade happened, I was like, I do not like the fit of Devontae Adams in New York. I didn't like it before the trade. I didn't like it after the trade. I don't like it rest of season. I don't like it, man. And I'm just asking the question, Jay. I'm just asking a question. This is now Devontae Adams. We know he's a Hall of Famer. First ballot. You know it. I know it. Everybody in the chat knows it. First ballot Hall of Fame wide receiver. But Father Time is undefeated. So I'm just asking, is this everybody else's fault in New York? Or has Adams and Rodgers have they maybe lost a step, man? And that's not to diminish Devontae Adams' skill set as one of the best wide receivers to ever do it. But damn it, at some point, you're looking in New York and I'm watching Garrett Wilson looks way better than him. He does. He looks more
Yeah.
explosive. He's faster. He looks like a
8 years
20-year-old
younger, right?
versus a
Yeah.
40-year-old. That's what it looks like to me. So I'm with you. I think these older receivers that they'll go in there and do their job. It's like that old point guard at 24 Hour Fitness, man. Like they're old and they move, but they know how to position themselves to get a 2-point mid-range shot. And they don't leave the court. So I'm with you. I think I would prioritize. The Cooper thing is interesting. Because
The
I think
upside for Cooper's
I
there,
am
though.
a little more bullish on Keon Coleman than a lot of people. I like what they're doing with Keon. And when you look at his usage compared to the other rookie wide receivers in this class, it's like the fifth most utilized rookie wide receiver right now is Keon Coleman. Behind Marv, Neighbors, Ladd, and BTJ, it's Keon Coleman. So I'm a little more, I guess, hopium filled for Keon Coleman than I am the enthusiasm for Coop. I think this is a tough one. Those are four very similarly tiered receivers that you're trying to rank for the rest of the season, and they're on all new teams, man. It's tough. It's tough.
So how would you rank Nuke and Adams? Because I still don't like. I think the answer should probably be Nuke. So like again, for me, it's Cooper, Diontae, Nuke, and then
probably Hopkins.
Some people have Nuke at 2.
Yeah,
like Nuke over Diontae's. I just couldn't
think
do
you're
it,
a little
man. I don't think it
low
makes
on
sense.
Hopkins, and I don't think that he's overly great at this stage, but he's a lot better than whatever else they have right now. And Kansas City will just force feed him like they did Juju. He's better than Juju Smith-Schuster. He's better than Juju, and we saw Juju go out there and get fed and score 20 fantasy points. So yeah, I think I'm fine with the 1-year rental of DeAndre Hopkins, but really quickly because they're jonesing for a bump. They're jonesing for a bump of Coker. So let's talk about the Carolina Panthers side of this. And it probably, Jay, was his best career game, Bryce Young, last week.
Oh.
And it probably was. Like, it probably was.
I thought you were going to say Jalen Coker. I was like, damn, the disrespect.
No, not Coker. I'm sorry. You're still, I understand the excitement for this receiver. But you couldn't have a worse environment to want to bet on something than Carolina. I mean, it's Carolina, New England. They're just bottom tier offenses. And I just do not like prioritizing, investing in, and starting players in awful situations absent the running back. But there have been some people saying that there were some positive, very positive things that Bryce put on tape versus the Denver Broncos shorthanded. So my question to you, Jay, is twofold. One, do you believe that this was a step in the right direction for Bryce Young? And two, are you really buying into the fact that Jalen Coker could be somebody that you can predictably and confidently start moving forward in fantasy? Because as much as I am impressed with what he did versus Denver, and you look at some of the catches, that over-the-shoulder just bucket drop from Bryce to him, it was a great throw, but it was also an amazing catch because he had to go out there and hands grab that thing. He looked good. The size is there, the speed, the athleticism. But do you truly bet on that environment to help make that player be good on a consistent week-to-week basis?
Yeah, so this is a twofold question, but it reminds me of a very old time in the fantasy landscape. And we're going back real far, Ray. We're going back to the Philadelphia 76ers back when they were trusting the process. And as bad as they were, doesn't matter what team it is, if they're bad defensively and they start and they play, there will be opportunity for them. Every single week we talk about how the Carolina Panthers have the worst defense in NFL history. Now, that may not be the case because they only allowed 28 points to the Denver Broncos. But in the case of Jalen Coker, a player who's coming off of 6 targets, 4 receptions, 78 yards in his first touchdown of his career, now Diontae Johnson is officially gone. We know that Xavier Legette will be a big part of the offense. But there's a reason to be excited about what he could do because of the skill set, the size, the ability he's already shown on the field, but also the fact this team is down in every game. At just about every game this season, they're at some point down 21 points, 14 points. And at that point in the NFL, you're not running the ball. You're not trying to dink and dunk. You're trying to go out there and you're throwing the ball almost every play. And yeah, Bryce Young did have one of his better games, but maybe Andy Dalton comes back. And if Andy Dalton comes back, at that point, we're saying they could throw the ball 40 times a game because he's more than capable of doing that. So while, again, the Carolina Panthers are awful, it's not an offense I want to bet on. I'm not afraid either to go out and say maybe Coker could do something throughout the rest of the season because there's nobody there. And this defense is so bad, they're going to have to throw the ball. So while the volume may be spotty, it may be kind of like you've seen at times with Daniel Jones. Maybe Malik Neighbors gets 12 targets, but only 6 are catchable because the quarterback play just isn't very good. The team isn't very good. But I'll take kind of opportunity like that where he could see 8 to 10 targets in games simply because they're always down in these games every single week. And so for me, I think I would be taking a shot on Coker, especially if you have him. It's tough to start him because the team is bad, but the opportunity should be there for this player, even with Bryce Young at quarterback.
I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. I got to play a little ball, small school ball, so I've got a lot of love for the small school players, and I want to see him succeed. This just feels like a situation where you enjoy it while you have it. In my opinion, this just feels like an organization that could be one and done at a head coaching spot. You've got a player with little capital invested into. It feels at this moment very Travis Fulgham-ish to me. I thought that's where you were going. I thought that's where you were going when you started to talk about Philly. Feels very Travis Fulgham-like, but he's going to have some opportunity. I still would not feel confident starting him. But I would love to have him on a deep dynasty roster as just a sleeper prospect. And if somebody offered something to me for him, you want my Coker and you're going to send me a second-round pick, goodbye. I hope he does well, but I still need to see a little bit more. And the bigger thing is it's not even him that I don't trust. It's not his skill set. It's not the talent or anything that he put on tape. It's the offensive situation. It's Carolina. It's the quarterback. It's Dave Canales. And there was a comment in here from Tim. Shout out to Tim. Appreciate you for pulling up, man. He said, sometimes investing in terrible offenses can be an edge. If you invested in Nico Collins before Stroud was there is an example. Well, the difference is Houston wasn't terrible. We just didn't know what they were. They were actually quite good. We thought they would be bad, but they're quite good. We know unequivocally this offense is shit. We know that Bryce Young for 1.5 years has not been good. The difference between this and Houston is we just didn't have information on Houston. We assumed that was the same Texan squad that we had seen trotted out there for the past 5 years. And even still, during that season, because if you were here and you were tapped in, the Trinity was birthed because of Nico Collins. You still had multiple opportunities throughout that season to acquire Nico Collins because people still didn't buy into that. People didn't buy. Do you hear? People didn't buy into Nico and Stroud. Stroud and Nico. But you want to sell me on this?
I mean, I'm not selling you on it, but there's opportunity there.
I'm just
there's opportunity there.
Does it sound good coming out? Like no thank you, Nico Collins and CJ Stroud, but all in, chips all in the middle of the table for the fucking Carolina Panthers, man. Come on, dude.
Right, at some point they're gonna have to turn it around, right? It's not gonna be this year. It's probably not gonna be next year.
Maybe it's too much like right. Maybe it's too much like right, and it has nothing to do with Coker. That situation just stinks, Jay.
Yeah, it's a bad situation, but if you have him on a team right now, I'm more than willing to let it play out a little bit, right? Because he's probably going to play the rest of the season, could have a few spike weeks, and then at that point maybe you could trade him. And even if the value plummets, what did it really cost to acquire him in the first place? So I think kind of seeing it out and seeing how it plays out is good, and I would be, a second round pick, I'd probably trade him for that. But I'd probably be holding otherwise, just to kind of see what he could do. Maybe he becomes something in Carolina, and maybe it's only for this season, but why not kind of ride it out and see what happens?
Yeah. No, Tim said for the record, I wasn't speaking about Coker. It's just interesting to me, right? It's just, and now, wasn't he a third round pick? What? Didn't nobody give a shit about none of that prior to him doing it. So don't Malcolm Gladwell me and try to freaking, what's the book where he went back and look, don't do that to me, right? Like, don't do that to me. No revisionist history around here. We're not doing that mess. We're not doing, people still, even with the third round capital, nobody invested in Nico Collins. Not a soul. Not until he started to produce, man. So.
Because he sucked at Michigan.
No, stop. He did not suck at Michigan. I like Jalen Coker, though, and I hope he does well. But there was more big, maybe the
Big.
biggest NFL news, Jay. And we are going to talk about it right after the break. Hit the thumbs up button, run it up, because y'all are obnoxious. Y'all, the Ray DQ in the comments is obnoxious, and they continue to go, Jay. So I need a break. Don't you air horn that. Don't you give Jimbo
That's
and Joe
good.
and all
That's
the crazies
good.
and
I like it.
don't give them any more ammunition and fool because they already getting on my damn nerves this morning with that one. But let's hit the break and we'll be right back, baby. Let's go. Right before the beat drop, welcome back in to Wake Up with Ray and Jay. Appreciate you being in the building. And if you are on the channel, help us grow. Help us get bigger. Help us grow by subscribing to the channel, commenting, hitting the like button, sharing the stream, and making sure y'all wake y'all asses up every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out the DD Podcast radio feed. Bunch of other content creators, all types of content. Some of the best content out there. I'm telling you, there's no content better than the content that we have at DD Fantasy Football. JRich, let's get into it, man. Your boy was benched yesterday. Your boy, Anthony Richardson, to the bench. Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, they got together and they said, that is it. Richardson, sit down. Mister, I need a break. I'm too tired. 33% completion percentage. They said, no mas. You must have a seat. So here we are. And this has been an interesting one to watch play out because there's been no bigger proponent and fan of Anthony Richardson than yours truly, Ray G. None.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Calling the people cowards, JRich, for not starting Anthony Richardson, and it did not work out well. But I've been quiet past couple of days, right? I've been licking my wounds, man. I've been licking my wounds. It hurts because the talent is there. What happened from last year to this year? But I've watched everybody else defend or criticize him, and it seems like there's two polar opposite views right now. You've got this group of people who say inexcusable to take yourself out of the game. I've never seen this happen before. So I just started to think about all the times that I'd played competitive sports, Jay, from college to high school. I don't think I ever came out of the game. I don't think I ever, thinking about, there might have been some times where I was dead ass tired and I'm like, I hope they don't throw it on this side because I will be burnt. I am exhausted. I really hope it's a run play. Can I get 2 run plays? But I don't think I ever pulled unless I was hurt or something was
Forced off
wrong,
the field.
right? Not for windedness. You just stay out there and pray they don't come your way the next play. But I see a lot of people saying that was the breaking point. But then I also see an even bigger population of people, Jay, which surprised me that they were disappointed with the Colts' decision to pull him. And I really started to think about this entire selection, his prospect profile, man. And the Colts, as bad as he's playing, when you really think about the fact that he's only started 17, 20 games from high school till now, and do you realize how little football that is, dude? That's like throwing you out there right now, even at a JUCO level, and say, just go play, man. Just, you'll figure it out. It's such a hard learning curve that the bumps and bruises should have been expected from the Colts this year. And the goal, in my opinion, I'm not the GM, I'm not the coach, but the goal should have been, you know what? We know we've got a rough ball of clay that we have to mold this season, and we're probably not going to win the division. We're probably not going to contend for a Super Bowl title. This season is about trying to figure out, do we have the quarterback of the future? And you get that by reps, by playing. He's not going to play. So my question to you is, how will he develop? And moving forward, when you're looking at collegiate prospects, will you ever want to bet on a guy that's only played 5 collegiate games and then they get drafted? I think this will be the end of teams pulling that shit because it doesn't seem like teams are giving players of all positions, but especially at QB, any time to grow and develop. Like, those days are long gone. You better come in, figure this shit out early, or we're going to replace you and get you up out of the paint. Now, you look at what's happened a little bit with Green Bay, Malik Willis, and Tennessee, and I still believe that coaching is a big part of it, man. Like, that bad coaching or good coaching can make or break a player. A lot of people didn't like Bo Nix. Lands in a good situation and look at him thriving with Sean Payton. And while he doesn't look like Josh Allen today. He's stacking weeks and he's getting better. So where does this thing go for the Colts? Where does it go for ACL, Jay?
I mean, there's a lot of things at play here.
There's a lot, man. I know.
You brought up Bo Nix. Another guy, Ray, what was he, a 5-year starter in college? Started 3 years at Oregon. Started as a freshman at at Auburn, and then transferred to Oregon. Was great at Oregon as well. Probably started 50-plus games in college as well. Jaden Daniels, of course, we talked about him. The same story. JRich is so difficult for a multitude of reasons, right? You look at Adam Schefter on Pat McAfee's show, and he said that he heard about this happening in the morning. So long before anything happened, long before the Colts even had meetings about it, apparently. And he called some GMs or whoever he called this source. He didn't say who he called, obviously. He just said they're very knowledgeable people and asked them about him being benched. And apparently the response was, of course they're benching him. And that's all he said, right? Which is probably, of all the things I've heard about the benching, the most shocking and surprising. Because what is it that these GMs, scouts, coaches, etc., are that vehement that he should be benched and needs to be on the bench? And what is the reasoning behind that? Because like you said to everyone else, he's hardly played football in the NFL. He hardly played in the SEC. He needs time to develop, period. But at the same time, you have the Colts who are 4-4 right now, and 4-4 is a great record in the AFC, very competitive. And there's 51 other guys who aren't trying to lose every single week. And so I think it comes down to whether it's ownership, whether it's the GM, and I kind of want to use the Browns as an analogy here, because for weeks and weeks and weeks, it was they need to bench Deshaun Watson. He's not good enough. I wouldn't say that's the case with JRich, but it does seem like today it's someone very high up saying he can't be our starting quarterback right now. Whether it's he's not ready, whether it's we'd rather try and win games with Flacco.
How do you get him ready? Like, my thing is this. You're not going to get ready in practice because in practice you don't get hit. In practice, the defensive players can't even get around the quarterback. Jay, everything. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, man. Tim put this comment in the chat. I love this. And we always talk about this. More QBs are destroyed versus developed in the NFL. The NFL is for reps and to get up to the pro level. The NFL is for reps and to get up to the pro level speed from college, not learn everything together. And right now, he's having to learn how to play quarterback at the highest level.
Where you can't do it, yeah.
That seems very suboptimal. And if you are going to take a player like that, then it's assumption of the risk, man. You knew this dude didn't play quarterback a lot when you drafted him number 4 overall. You knew at Florida, a lot of his game was predicated on get it to Ricky Pearsall quick or take off and run. You assumed the risk when you pressed draft. He played 4 games last year, finished 2, had shoulder surgery. So it's my question. It's just, there's got to be more to this, man. There's got to be some real vitriol to him, not just checking out, but I'm just being real. I'm calling it how I see it and how I heard it. I think his demeanor and presence at the podium after the fact didn't do him any favors either, because he was just so cavalier. Okay. He was just, I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I was just tired. You know what I'm saying? I had to pull out. I was just tired, man. I don't think that's what was endearing to other people, that he didn't say, I shouldn't have done that. I was really injured at the time. He just was kind of like, but then again, it was a play, right? It was one play. It wasn't, this is just a weird situation. And I'm not saying that Malik Willis is some good quarterback. I'm not saying he's some good quarterback. I'm not saying trade for him. What I'm saying is it's interesting how in Tennessee, he looked like a guy that had no business on an NFL roster. And then he goes to a different environment, different situation with a different coach, different players, different scheme. And he definitely looked like a player that maybe isn't a starting caliber quarterback, but looked like, hey, man, if your starter went down, you can plug Malik Willis in and maybe keep this thing afloat a little bit. The offense might run differently. It's not going to look like Jordan Love, but we might have a nice little backup quarterback here. So I'm just saying that these environmental change, sometimes shit don't fit, man, you know? And there's no difference between, if anything, it's even more magnified when you've only got like 32 teams. But in life, things don't fit. Your relationships with partners sometimes don't work out. Your relationships with employers and employees, sometimes it's just not a good fit. And sometimes, Jay, you realize it early on in the relationship. Damn, this girl is batshit crazy. What did I do? I know she fine as hell, but man, she's a goddamn psychopath. I got to get out of here, right? You get hired at a new job. You think it's going to be this and that, lied on the resume, got the position, get in, and you're like, this ain't what I wanted to do. This is not what I want to do. So sometimes relationships just don't work. To a degree, does this kind of feel like Mac Jones in New England towards the end of his time? Does it feel like where they feel like they got to play him because he was a first-round pick, but then they do the Colts already know they don't want him? Do they know right now they don't want Anthony Richardson?
I wouldn't go that far to say that they know they don't want him. I just think that right now with where they're at, they would rather try and win football games and compete than develop Anthony Richardson, right? Like it's a multitude of issues, from the backlash of him taking himself out to the team not playing very well. I think the hard part too is you look to both these Houston games. While it's not all on JRich, and a lot of people have done a lot of breakdowns, Dan Orlovsky did a great one about like 6 throws that are, multitude of things that are not necessarily his fault. It's the receiver, it's the coverage. There's a lot of issues here. But overall, Ray, I think one of the things that isn't talked about so much with Shane Steichen, and both of us have been we've praised Shane Steichen a lot. And you brought up, of course, my favorite coach in the league, Matt LaFleur. I think he is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach, to take a player like Malik Willis, who you didn't even mention has only been on the roster for 9 weeks. He hasn't played there all offseason. He was traded there mid-season. He started his second week on the team, and he's playing like a more than competent starting quarterback. People are talking about Jordan Love learning on the bench. Once again, that's with Aaron Rodgers' tutelage. We don't know how much tutelage there was, but it's with Matt LaFleur as his coach, developing him over the course of 3 seasons. And so, yes, JRich can maybe learn some things on the bench, but a lot of times you have to learn on the job. And I think with Steichen, one of my big things here that I think is at play is I think he is used to a quarterback that is way more NFL ready. Look at the quarterbacks he's utilized and seen success with. Justin Herbert, a player who stayed for his senior season despite not needing to and probably would have been a top 5 pick anyways, but he stayed at Oregon, then came to the NFL and worked with Steichen for, I think, just his rookie season. And then Steichen goes to where? He goes to Philly, and he coaches Jalen Hurts, a player who is known for his intelligence on the football field, who's played in multiple systems, played for Nick Saban, played for Lincoln Riley, and thrived in both systems, to now Anthony Richardson, who's been coached poorly in college because his coaches were terrible.
Oh, there was no coaching at Florida. Was that the Napier year?
I believe he only had Billy Napier for that one. And before that, it was Napier, I believe, as well, or Muschamp, who, again...
No, he wasn't there with Muschamp.
Because Muschamp also coached Bo Nix.
It's been bad for a long
development
time
there
in Florida,
as well.
yes.
So now he goes to the NFL. He's basically had no coaching at all at the college level. And he has a coach who clearly has a very elaborate system, likes to push the ball down the field, and for a quarterback with no experience at all, basically, having to throw the ball down the field, which is one of the most difficult things to do in the NFL, it's going to be a tough process and a steep learning curve. And I think that's where, when you look at Steichen, you have to put a lot of blame on him, because he's trying to run a very difficult system with a quarterback who is not Justin Herbert, who's probably one of the better quarterbacks to run a system like this, or even Jalen Hurts, who did do very well in that Steichen system. But Steichen built a system around Hurts, and I feel like like you've talked about,
And
Richardson doesn't have the same system that Hurts had in Philly.
And Jalen
or
Hurts,
the offensive line.
Unlike Anthony Richardson, started like 40-something games in college. Like he was there for a long time. And I know that doesn't always work. Kenny Pickett was in college for multiple years, but Kenny Pickett also had a weak arm, and he probably shouldn't have been picked where he was. Joe asked the question. Joe said, based on this, who are some of the 25 prospects that we should be concerned about I'm paraphrasing, that we should be, here it is right here. After this discussion, let's highlight some of the young QBs coming out in 25 who still need lots of development. I think there's only one, and that's kind of the good thing about 25 is at least the quarterbacks that are being discussed as the top guys, they've been there for a while. Yeah. Cam Ward's, like, this is his 5th year in college for Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Shadour's had 3 full seasons as starting quarterback at different levels. HBCU, SWAC level, 2 years of P5 football. So the starts for Shadour triple that of Anthony Richardson. There's only one QB with limited starts in the class, and I know a lot of people are excited about the name after the first half of last weekend, and I've told y'all about this player since the summer. It's Garrett Nussmeier. That's the only one that lacks experience, and it's the reason why I have not put Garrett Nussmeier in any mock, because I don't think he's going to come out. He hasn't seen enough. I don't think he's going to come out. He's going to come back to school for another season. So I think when you're looking at some of the top quarterbacks, they've all had experience. And I really do look at this Malik Willis, Bo Nix thing, and even Sam Darnold to a degree. These players, Baker Mayfield, you can see, man, that we have examples in the NFL, real living, breathing examples of players who have had an environment or situation change that do get an upgrade at the coaching situation or skill position, and we've seen them thrive and play well. And it doesn't mean they're a Hall of Famer or you're going to have some rock solid, locked and loaded top 20 dynasty asset, but Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston. And I understand, but those guys had the experience. Rich does not. This is the bet the Indianapolis Colts made. They've got to play him, man. You just this is what you made.
So my question to you, Ray, is I think for my brain and the way it works right now is, how does Rich escape the Trey Lance ending to this situation, right? Because this is the path he's kind of on right now, unfortunately. There's only one way, Jay. Right? You're talking about Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. These are guys that started multiple years in the NFL for their teams and did look good at times, right? Even Geno Smith, he wasn't the best for the Jets, started multiple seasons. So it's really the Trey Lance ending and the path that he's on right now with being hurt, missing games, and now being benched. Now, Trey Lance was never benched. He just kept getting hurt. But I mean, there's no quarterback behind him, but Joe Flacco looks better than him, just like Brock Purdy looked better than Trey Lance did.
No doubt.
And so where are those starts going to come from? And how do you think he can kind of escape that ending? Because the development's probably not going to happen.
There's one or two escapes, Jay. Well, there's really only one. There's one. He has to play better. Point blank, period.
I think so.
That's it. When he gets, because he will, when he gets another opportunity to go under center, he has to play better. I'm just fearful that the relationship is fractured. Like, once you do shit like this, I don't know how you put it back in and be like, we have full confidence in you to lead this team and be the starter. Part of me low-key feels like, not that he won't start again, not that the Colts won't play him again. There's got to be a lot of change in the last 8 games of the season for me to feel like, oh yeah, he is their guy of the future. And I don't think they would pivot to another QB option next year.
Yeah.
You just don't see this happen. And we're starting to see around the league, man, more and more, I'm a yank your ass. If you're a quarterback and you're out there just throwing the ball all around and you can't complete basic passes, we'll just pull you and replace you. So moving forward, I think if this doesn't pan out, we must be mindful. And we took the swing on a generational type athlete that we all knew didn't start a lot, but we trusted Shane Steichen and what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts. If this fails with him, there won't be another team to invest in a player like this. You won't see that happen again. It's too critical because it should cost somebody their job. If he's benched and doesn't play for them again, it should cost Ballard and Steichen their job. They should be gone. And I like Chris Ballard, but it was just an egregious pick, man. An egregious pick. If you're going to pull him and not play him and not go through the shit that you knew you were going to have to go through when you drafted him because he ain't played, it doesn't feel like this is a relationship that's going to be repaired, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard because, like, again, that's where I look to Cleveland a little bit, where ownership is saying you have to play Deshaun Watson because we're paying him a ton of money. Like, it may have come from Irsay, who said, you know what, like, I understand what you're trying to do here, but we need to win football games, and you need to start Joe Flacco because he can win us the football games that Anthony Richardson may not be able to win us. And so that's where this situation is very, very difficult, because we do see owners meddle in these situations a lot, especially with quarterbacks, because it impacts their dollars and cents at a very, very high degree. Yeah, man.
Jason said Drew Brees got benched in San Diego, then replaced by Rivers. And then Daniel Perry says, should we put less focus on mobility for QBs and focus on processing and situation awareness for QBs? These skills seem to age better for the position. I'm going to say it like this. It's the hardest position to get right. It's the hardest position in football to get right. And Daniel, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have the freaking answers, because if I did, I probably wouldn't be doing the stream right now. I'd be in some front office. But look how many times they get it wrong. Think about how many times they get it wrong every year. And, we kind of did this a few years prior with Trey Lance, and he was even less experienced because it was at the FCS level, right? It was at the FCS level. They get it wrong all the time. I think what we try to do to the best of our ability is really look at everything, the situation, the talent, the skill set, the coaching, and we try to project what could happen. And we're here now, but at the beginning of the season, the enthusiasm was sky high. I mean, people were like, hell yeah, let's ride. After what he did the first 4 games when he didn't, of his rookie year, and they revamped this thing. He's healthy. This is what happens when you got inexperience back there at the most difficult position in football to play. It's crazy, man. Jay, when we were at the Senior Bowl and we were on the field, remember during the team drills where Jaron Hall's standing back there and they're saying hut, and it's just shit happening everywhere. And you're like, my God, if you don't know what you're doing before the play, it's impossible, man. It is impossible. And I don't think football is any different than any other sport. In baseball, you could have somebody that can throw 100 miles an hour, but if they've got no command or control, what good are you? You know what? Yeah. You can't pitch if you can't put it in the zone. If you can't find your location. If you can't dribble in the NBA, it ain't gonna work. You'll just get ripped. So every sport, all the talent and athleticism we've seen, baseball players, basketball players, hockey players have all this athleticism and talent. You can't put it together, man. It's just, you're just God-given athlete. They can't throw a fucking ball in an NFL game. So unfortunate for Anthony Richardson. I think he's got some maturing that he needs to do, both on the field and with the media and his presence, and being a leader of men, not a leader of Billy Napier's Florida locker room, but a leader of professional men at the next level. So hopefully this is a wake-up call and he figures it out. People are saying buy low. What are you buying low for? Like what are you buying low for? What is the buy low? What is the buy low? So yeah, man. Moving forward, I just want quarterbacks that can throw the ball over the middle of the field. If I'm watching you in college and you are confident enough to throw strikes over the middle of the field, you've got downfield accuracy, you can complete the easy. That's why I don't think I have no problem with Cam Ward or Shedeur, depending on what situation they land in. I think they can throw the ball just fine. Like, I really do. Yeah. Are they going to be Jaden Daniels? No, because neither of them are that level of athlete, Jay. But I think that those guys in the right environment at the next level can get the ball to Brock Bowers, can get the ball to Malik Neighbors. Jalen Milroe, not so sure.
I would say that Jalen Milroe's the guy now.
Not so sure.
With JRich. No, that if he comes out, which I don't think he will, I think he'll stay in college.
He won't. Right? He shouldn't.
He's the guy that you look to and you say, I don't need another JRich on my roster, right? And if for an NFL team, you say, he did start for 2 years, and I think it was Matt Miller who put this out. He said scouts and agents are telling college QBs to not leave school until they've started 2+ years. The NFL doesn't truly develop QBs anymore outside of rare exceptions. And that's why when you go to the Josh Allen sucking for 2 years and then getting good because he got Brian Daboll and Jordan Love, like these are very outlier scenarios. You look at this draft class right now, Bryce Young looks like he has no hope and won a Heisman in college playing for the best college coach of all time in Nick Saban, right? It just didn't work out for Bryce Young. Probably never going to work out, but we'll see. Worked out for CJ Stroud, even though this year CJ Stroud looking like a pretty mediocre quarterback at times. And then, of course, you now have JRich, massive bust as it stands right now and not playing overly well as well. So it's just difficult.
Joe nails it, Jay. Read what Joe said. She said, I knew when JRich got hurt his rookie season, that was going to be so tough to come back from because he was already behind in development without me. And I'm remiss from not bringing that up. If he did this shit last year, I think people would.
It's his rookie season.
I think people would give it a little more grace, right? People would be like, he's a rookie, we know. But he did play a little bit last year. And he was available for the offseason program. And he looks worse than he did when he was coming out of Florida. And I think that
way worse.
That right there hurts the image and the profile right there. The fact that, shit, man. Like, it's year 2 now. I expected a little bit more than what we're getting
But that's where people confuse he's only started 10 games. The NFL doesn't care how many games you've started in your career. It's your second season now. You're supposed to be significantly better than you were in your first year, regardless of how much you played. This is how the game works, right? You can't look to how many games he started. It's his second year, full off-season program, and he looks worse than he did the first year. That's a problem, right? That's a big problem. You can't look worse than you did your first season.
I'm going through the comments real quick. Let's wrap with the comments. Yeah, this is tough day, man. We didn't even, good Lord, did we even talk about Stephon Diggs really quickly?
No. Stephon Diggs, torn ACL, out for the season. Nico not back until week 10, hopefully.
Really?
But Stroud has to play the Jets. The Jets are currently favored, right? Thursday Night Football, we have the Jets and Texans. The Jets are 1.5-point favorites now with CJ Stroud only having Joe Mixon and Tank Dell. Now we maybe see some John Mechie in this game. Maybe we see them add. We still have another week until the deadline is over. But Stephon Diggs going to be out for the season now after being traded to the Houston Texans to bolster that offense.
Man? How does this impact Stroud, the Texans?
I think it's big. I think it's really big. Like, this team hasn't looked very good offensively. To your point, Nico's been great. And when Nico's been out, Stephon Diggs has been pretty good. We haven't seen much from Tank Dell. He got a big touchdown this past week and did look good, but we haven't seen much from him.
They don't use him like Nico. He's not a Nico replacement. He's not the downfield big play guy. I think it's just going to be a lot of Joe Mixon, maybe Bobby Trees. Bobby Trees?
Yeah, he could get involved, right?
Bobby Trees, maybe. Little Woods. Mechie got involved.
Yeah.
And who wins this game? Thursday Night Football. 6-2 Texans, 2-6 Jets.
I think Houston has to win this game. I don't think there's any way the Jets win.
The Jets are favored by 1.5?
Yeah, bro. There's no way I'm taking the Jets. The Jets have lost 5 straight games. There's just no way, man. There's no way.
Yeah.
And the Texans are a good team, but offensively, they're an issue. But at the same time, the Jets are not the same defense they had with Robert Saleh. No. It's very clear. This defense is not very good without their once head coach, who was a great defensive coordinator. They're not playing to the level they need to play at, and I think Houston will do enough to win this game. And Houston's defense should give Aaron Rodgers a lot of fits because that defense is very good.
Yeah, I'm reading the Jets' D-line production has dipped since Robert Saleh's departure. They were the 3rd highest pressure rate team weeks 1 through 5, and they've dropped to 13th, 35% since week 6. So no pressure on Stroud. Probably not what you
probably got Hassan Reddick back, though.
Yeah. What'd you say?
They got Hassan Reddick back, though.
Talk about it, just fumbling the bag for no reason. Just no reason whatsoever. All right. Long, hard day. We had to talk some reality about some Panthers and mainly Anthony Richardson. So there it is, baby. There it is. We appreciate each and every eye, each and every ear in the building. We will be back on Friday talking through some of the matchups of this weekend's games and who knows, Jay? We might have some more NFL breaking news hit the desk between now and then. We appreciate everybody being in the building. Josh, MB Prof, Richie, Alex C, Chef Rand, Tim C, Jason, Jorge from Rhode Island, Joe, my girl, Daniel, Amstel 54. Great show. We appreciate y'all being in the building. Hit the music, Jay. Hit the music. Get out of here. Arch Manning, future Colts QB1. That's what they're doing. They're prepping up. They're trying to position themselves for that 26th draft for that Arch Manning out of Texas, man. We appreciate each and every eye in the building, man. Hit that thumbs up button, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you wake your asses up with me and Jay on Friday morning. Have a beautiful Wednesday. Join the squad, ddfantasyfootball.com or patreon.com/allgas. No super chats. I did the outro right. D-Wade, baby. D-Wade. Why they do me like this, JRich? Why they do D-Wade like this, man? Where's it at? Where's the D? Why they do him like this, man? Let's get out of here, man. Let's get out of here on this note, Jay.